Welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. Today, we're diving into our explainer on designing custom rules for analysis. Go ahead and grab your inventor hats because we're drafting some highly technical engineering blueprints today. Our sole mission? Trapping those pesky, sleep-ruining smart contract bugs. We're going to get a really close look at the mechanics of building your very own custom static analysis rules.
Now, if you recall our previous lesson on the foundations of advanced static analysis, you already know the basic physics here, how taint propagation and path-sensitive detection actually work. But here's the million-dollar question, sketched out on our blueprint. How on earth do we catch these bugs without drowning in false alarms? Because let's face it, off-the-shelf tools are great, but they usually either miss the really sneaky stuff or they trigger so much noise your security team just ignores them. We need to build a better, smarter mousetrap.
Here's the schematic for today's explainer. We'll start with a custom rule blueprint, break down the anatomy of a rule, assemble a trap for a specific tx.origin bug, run some positive and negative testing, and finally balance it all out with recall versus precision. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The Custom Rule Blueprint. This is where we take our theories and actually operationalize our detection.
The whole goal here is taking that deep theoretical knowledge of yours and making it actionable. We want to translate the abstract characteristics of a vulnerability into concrete machine-checkable patterns. Think of it like writing a super strict set of instructions for a robot inspector. The robot doesn't just intuitively know what bad code is, right? It would happily greenlight a self-destruct button if you didn't explicitly forbid it. But it perfectly understands a command like, find me an assignment where external input influences control flow.
Moving right along to Section 2. Let's look at the anatomy of a rule. What's really fascinating here is how we can break down a rule into its mechanical components.
So, a custom rule is basically a highly precise machine made up of 4 distinct parts. First, locating candidates. Second, filtering them. Third, limiting the scope. And fourth, validating the logic. Make no mistake, if any one of these gears is missing, your bug trap is either going to snap on empty air or just fail to trigger altogether.
Let's start with that first gear, the AST, or abstract syntax tree pattern. I want you to think of this as a giant, super powerful magnet. It locates syntactic candidates broadly and extremely fast. That means it has high recall. But because it's just a giant magnet grabbing at shapes, it has a habit of overmatching. It'll pull in perfectly harmless code that just happens to look structurally similar to our actual target. To fix that overmatching issue, we bring in the second gear, the predicate. If the AST is our giant magnet, the predicate is our fine-toothed comb. It applies semantic checks to filter out all those annoying false positives. It looks at the stuff the magnet grabbed and asks, okay, but does this actually check out? Is this value tainted? Is it the right type? Does it influence a state-changing control flow? It guarantees the item we caught is actually a real threat.
When you put it all together on the schematic, you can really see how each mechanism plays its part. The AST pattern finds the candidates, the predicate filters them, the context constraint limits the scope so we don't accidentally scan your harmless test files, and the test cases validate our work. This exact methodology of tightening the screws on your bug trap is a core concept we explore heavily in the Smart Contract Security Audit capstone over at Forge College.
All right, Section 3. Let's put this assembly into action and actually trap a tx.origin bug.
Our target pest for this example is the misuse of authorization primitives, specifically when a dev uses tx.origin instead of msg.sender for authorization. To put that in real-world terms, using msg.sender is like checking the ID of the person actually handing you the money. Using tx.origin is like checking the ID of the taxi driver who dropped them off. Conceptually, super easy to describe. Mechanically, kinda messy. Real contracts might use direct comparisons, which are easy to spot, sure, but they might also hide that check deep inside a helper function, making it a very tricky pest to catch. To catch both scenarios, we can use a tool like semgrep, which has this brilliant YAML rule concept called pattern either. This is a real game changer. It lets us cast a net with multiple structural shapes at once. We literally tell the engine, hey, trigger if you see a direct if statement checking tx.origin or triggered if you see a function returning a Boolean derived from tx.origin. It handles that sneaky indirection beautifully.
But hold on! Before we unleash this shiny new tool into a live codebase, we absolutely have to calibrate it. That brings us to Section 4, positive and negative testing.
The crucial takeaway here is that a rule is only ever as good as its tests. We need absolute control. On one side, we need a positive vulnerable contract that uses tx.origin to actually change the state. On the other side, a negative, completely benign contract that uses tx.origin just for harmless logging. Our rule absolutely must trigger on the vulnerable code, and it absolutely must not trigger on the safe code. Simple as that.
Getting that right requires iteration. You run the rule against a repository, you capture the hits, and you classify them. If you're getting too many false alarms, like if your rule is going off on test fixtures or benign logging, you tighten the screws. You add context constraints, maybe require a state change to happen inside the if statement. On the flip side, if you realize you're missing bugs that are hiding in helper functions, you expand those pattern either shapes. It is a continuous calibration loop.
And that leads us perfectly into our final conceptual section today. Section 5, recall versus precision. It's time to fine-tune the machine.
Literally, every single design decision you make when authoring a rule comes down to a trade-off. On one hand, you have recall. That's making sure your giant magnet catches absolutely every potential instance of the bug. On the other hand, you have precision. That's making sure your fine-tooth comb filters out the noise. Because let's be real, if your rule flags hundreds of false positives, security analysts are just going to get annoyed and turn the thing off. Finding that perfect, quiet balance is the true art of static analysis.
So let's summarize our blueprint takeaways. Number 1. Separate your broad AST searches from your semantic predicates. Let the magnet do the heavy lifting and the comb do the sorting. Number 2, never deploy a rule without pairing it with both positive and negative test contracts. And number 3, always iterate. Start broad to catch the weird edge cases and then meticulously document your refinements as you filter out the noise.
And honestly, the audit trail you create by documenting these test cases and iterations is exactly what sets you up for the next step. Our next explainer will look at how we take these validated, finely tuned rules and plug them directly into automated CI/CD pipelines, so they run automatically on every single pull request.
So now that you have the blueprints, the AST magnets, and the semantic combs, what complex, sneaky bug traps are you going to build next? I highly encourage you to head over to forge.college to learn more about this and explore our other deep dives into Web3 security. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy hunting!